Hello everyone, Charles Watts here, the Arsenal correspondent at Goal, joining you on Wednesday, match day of course. Arsenal in action later tonight at the Emirates. I shall be there. Arsenal taking on Aston Villa, looking to make it 5 wins out of 5 in the Premier League, 15 points out of a possible 15. All a fantastic start to the season that would be. Villa arriving not in great form, Gerrard under a little bit of pressure. Going to be interesting to see how they perform and how Arsenal perform. Going to need probably a better performance than they produced, certainly at times against Fulham at the weekend. And they're going to have to do it with a few injury issues as well, which we'll talk about in this video. But I wanted to start on Bukayo Saka and his contract. Obviously, that's a long-running theme of this summer. Will he sign before the window ends? Will he sign before the season started? He didn't sign before the season started, but it appears we're getting closer to some sort of an agreement being reached. I spoke about it last week when Mikel was speaking at his press conference about Bukayo and the bullish way that he spoke about it, and I kind of looked at it as the way he said it, and it reminded me of how he spoke before Aubameyang signed his contract. He was just, I said it at the time, that Mikel's very measured when he comes to talking about things in front of the media. He won't say anything unless he really genuinely feels that something is close. He doesn't talk about transfers, anything like that, and contracts. He's always kind of just brushes them off until it gets very, very close, and then he gets that little glint in his eye, and then he actually talks about it. Says, remember with Aubrey, he was saying, I don't think Arsenal fans are going to have to worry too much longer, that sort of thing. Just gives a few little hints, and he seemed to do that. Maybe I was reading a little bit too much into it, but he seemed to do that when he was speaking about Bukayo last week and about the contract, and how he said that everyone's in agreement, everyone's on the same page. It's just a case of getting pen on paper now, and he just seemed really upbeat when talking about it. Now, Bukayo's been talking after the game on Saturday. He spoke to some press, some of the media journalists who were down in the mix zone after the game, and obviously one of the things they asked him was about the contract, and it was and about Mikel's comments, and they were saying, Mikel seemed very, very confident that you would sign a new contract. Do you share that? What are your thoughts on that? And he said, yes, I share his confidence. I feel like the manager is always there for me. He knows where to speak to me. It's not too much, but it's not too little. And the different bits of advice he gives me are special, and it makes such a difference. I feel really at home here. I really feel the love from my teammates, my coaches, and the fans as well. I feel loved here. I mean, those are positive comments, no doubt about it. And this is a big thing for Arsenal, make no mistake about it. Yes, we're coming to the end of the transfer window. Yes, everyone's going a little bit crazy when it comes to transfers, as is always the case this time of year. But getting Bukayo Saka tied down to a new contract is so absolutely huge on so many levels for Arsenal. First of all, because he's a brilliant player. Second of all, he's only got 2 years left on his contract, and everyone else is going to be banging on his door, banging on his agent's door already, let alone in a year's time if this continues to drag on. But also, he's the poster boy, isn't he? He's the Hale End boy. He's the academy product turned good in the first team, and it would just be such a hammer blow. You go back, think Ashley Cole leaving, that sort of thing. But even probably on a bigger scale than that now, because football's just so exploded in the 15 years or whatever it is since Ashley Cole left, and just the reaction to Saka leaving would be so huge, and so it's a massive thing if they can get him tied down. I just think they're really, really confident, and I felt confident after Arteta's comments, and I certainly feel confident after Saka and his body language as well when he was talking as well to the journalists. It just feels like a player who is ready to commit and ready to sign. Now, apparently it's not done yet, it's not signed, so we're not at that stage yet, but it just feels, from what Mikel said, from what Bukayo said there, that we're getting to that. We're getting towards that stage, and it wouldn't surprise me if it happens sooner rather than later, and Bukayo puts pen to paper and gets that contract sealed. There's other people to discuss as well. Gabriel Martinelli, William Saliba, they're in the same situation. Arsenal need to get their contracts sorted as well, and I'm sure they are absolutely working on that alongside the work they're putting into getting Bukayo. But Bukayo is such a big thing. It'll be a massive thing for the club. And fingers crossed, all these positive comments coming out from all parties are met with an actual pen to paper signing, and we can all kind of rest a little bit easier that Bukayo is tied down to a long-term contract and he's not going down towards the final year. He will be playing tonight. Needs a goal, really. He hasn't scored from open play. I think the last goal he scored from open play was back in beginning of April, whenever it was, that Aston Villa away game when Arsenal won 1-0. Scored a few penalties since then, obviously, at the end of the last season. Hasn't scored yet this season. Did get his first assist at the weekend for Martin Odegaard, so that would do him well good. But you kind of feel like Bukayo needs a goal just to settle him down a little bit. He's not had the greatest of starts to the seasons, Bukayo. Kind of gone under the radar a little bit because of the form of Martinelli, Jesus. But Saka, he's not been bad or anything, but he's not quite hit the heights that we certainly saw him hit last season. So he needs to get a goal. He needs to get a goal because he's in my fantasy team as well and he hasn't scored yet. But I'm sure that's the least of his concerns at the moment. Okay, so looking more ahead to tonight and injury-wise, not looking great at the moment for Arsenal. Obviously, the bad news coming out yesterday about Mohamed Elneny. He injured himself in the game against Fulham, a hamstring injury. We're not sure yet how bad it is. Arsenal are hopeful it's not. I mean, I've seen people say season ender and things like that, and you speak to people at Arsenal about it, and they're like, whoa. Our doctor doesn't even know the extent of it yet because they're still waiting for the full scan results, so it'd be impossible to put a date on it. It's a hamstring problem, and this is just me talking with absolutely no medical background whatsoever. But I've rarely seen a player. I don't think I've ever seen a player injure himself in August with a hamstring issue and be out for the entire season. That just doesn't make sense to me, even if it's a really bad one that would need an operation, which sometimes is the case of hamstrings. It can be 3 months, maybe 4 months, just the whole season. That feels a little bit too long. But anyway, Arsenal don't know yet the full extent of Elneny's injury. That will come apparent in the next couple of days. He's going for a scan, or he's been for a scan. I think that was yesterday, and we're waiting, and they're going to be waiting for results. And I'm sure we'll find out fairly soon exactly the extent of it. It is a blow, no doubt about it. Yes, he's not a guaranteed starter, obviously, so he's not like one of the starting 11 players, but he's still an important player. Partey's back up. If Partey's out like he was at the weekend, then Elneny's come in. And obviously this injury has happened on top of the fact that at the moment Thomas Partey is also out, and we know that Thomas Partey's injury record is far from great when it comes to his time at Arsenal. So it is a concern, and it's certainly going to add pressure for Arsenal to do something before the transfer deadline tomorrow night. Time is ticking in that regard. And so it is a blow for Arsenal, no doubt about it. He would have started tonight. It'll be interesting to see what he does in Elneny's absence tonight. I'll talk about that a little bit later at the end of this video when I go through my predicted 11. So that's a blow. Thomas Partey, slightly better news on Thomas Partey. From what I understand from speaking to people close to the player and from speaking to people at the club, no one seems to think this is a particularly bad one for Partey. Not like the one that kept him out the last 2 months of last season and the injuries he's had before that, which have been 6 weeks, 2 month layoffs. It doesn't feel, the early indications anyway, and you can never guarantee obviously, but the early indications are that this will be a couple of weeks more than a couple of months. So he'd obviously missed tonight. You'd think he's definitely out of the Man United game at the weekend, you would think. But then potentially he could come back after that. Maybe not. Maybe it might be another couple of games. But not looking at a 2 month layoff for Partey. Fingers crossed. But again, that's only early indications. So we'll wait and see a little bit more on that. Mikel will be speaking after the game tonight, obviously, where I think we'll probably get a little bit more of a clearer picture on the exact extent and potential time layoffs of these injuries. Zinchenko as well is looking a lot more positive. I mean, he's even, as far as I'm aware, would be under consideration for tonight. He had a fitness test before the Fulham game, so he was close to making it for Fulham. He didn't make it. That fitness test was before the game at the Emirates. He didn't make it, but we saw him on the touchline, bombing down to celebrate with the players when Gabriel scored the winner. So he didn't look too injured there. He was training yesterday, but it looked from the pictures that were posted from the training session, all of those pictures you saw of him, it seemed like he was on his own. You didn't see him in the group, so maybe he's doing a little bit of work on his own. I think it's probably unlikely he plays tonight, but there is a chance, I'm told, that he could possibly be involved. But just the fact that it seemed like those pictures of him in training were all taken by himself, maybe doing a bit of work with the fitness coaches, it might come too soon, and you don't want to take any risks at all. So, especially when he got Man United at the weekend, I think Zinchenko, if he's fit, he starts against Man United 100%. So we might well see a few changes today because of injuries. And so Elneny, Partey, Zinchenko, those sort of players, it could well be out, and it could be a little bit of changes when it comes to it. But it's not the worst thing when it comes to Partey and Zinchenko. I think we were all a little bit worried yesterday at the weekend when those injuries came out. It's like, oh no, how long is this going to be? But certainly the early indications for both are that even if they do miss tonight, which is a certainty in Partey's case, it might not be the sort of long layoffs that we were all fearing. Okay, so looking ahead to tonight's game, predicted 11-wise, this is an interesting one. It's going to be really hard to call. It's been pretty easy since the start of the season. Just basically, unchanged team, unchanged team, unchanged team. I think this one's going to be a lot more difficult to call because, A, the injuries come into the equation, but I also think a rotation might come into the equation a little bit, given Arsenal played at the weekend. They got Man United on Sunday. This is the first time they're going to have 3 games in 8 days this season. So Mikel might make a few changes, and you look at some of the players. I thought Gabriel Martinelli looked absolutely out on his feet at the end of the game at the weekend. He was cramping really badly. You saw that. So we might well see some changes. So this is what I'm going to say my predicted 11. Remember, this isn't me saying what I want. It's what I'm predicting Mikel may well go for. So Ramsdale in goal, obviously, that's a given. I'm going to say I was really torn on this one. I thought maybe Tomiyasu might come in, but I'm going to stick with Ben White at right back, Gabriel and Saliba at centre backs, and Kieran Tierney at left back, because I just don't think they're going to take a risk on Zinchenko. Then I'm going to say Sambi Lokonga, I think, might well end up playing the holding role, the Thomas Partey, Mohamed Elneny role at the base of the midfield. And then Granit Xhaka and Martin Odegaard ahead of him. And then I'm going to say Bukayo Saka, Martin Odegaard, Emil Smith-Rowe, Gabriel Jesus. So I think we might well see Martinelli rested. And I think Emil Smith-Rowe could well come in for that. I think Sambi will come in midfield. I mean, there is the option. You could play Granit Xhaka. You could drop him back into the more holding role that Partey's been playing. And then you could maybe bring in a Fabio Vieira, for example. Or you could play Smith-Rowe as an 8 alongside Odegaard. Something that's not always worked well, but Mikel has tried a few times. So there's plenty of options there. And I'm sure my predicted 11 is going to be way off. And Mikel might well spring a few surprises. So there's lots of options. And I just do think that rotation might come into things a little bit ahead of the game against Man United at the weekend. But let me know what you guys think. Who do you think should be in the starting 11 today? What do you reckon Mikel should go for if Partey, Zinchenko and Elneny are all out, which we expect they probably will be. So that's my predicted 11 for tonight. It's Ramsdale, White, Saliba, Gabriel, Tierney, Sambi, Xhaka, Odegaard, Saka, Smith-Rowe and Jesus. Let me know what you guys think of that in the comments below. Okay, before I go, just on transfers, obviously deadline tomorrow, 11 p.m. Lots of names being mentioned all of a sudden now because of the injuries to Elneny. People think it's absolutely given that Arsenal are going to go into the transfer market and bring in a replacement. I'm not saying that's not going to happen at all, but I don't think, from speaking to people yesterday, that it's an absolute definite because of these injuries. They're definitely going to do it. The one thing I know Arsenal aren't going to do, I think they're going to try and sign. I think they will. They want to. We know that. Mikel's said it publicly, so it's not a secret. But one thing I don't think they're going to do is they're going to panic. I don't think they're going to look at this and think, well, Elneny's injured, Partey's out, we've got to go and buy someone just for the sake of it, who then is going to come in. They've worked so hard, Arsenal, to sort their squad out over the last couple of years, that they're not just going to go and sign someone, give them a 4-year contract that they actually don't really fancy that much, but they're just bringing them in to plug a hole in the gap because of injuries. I just don't see that. I think in years gone by, that might be something Arsenal would have done, but the way they're working at the moment, the way the recruitment works, I'd just be really, really surprised. I think they're just too smart for that now. They're planning a little bit too smart for that now. So I think the only way they will go out and sign someone is someone they really, really want and they think he's gettable. Now, lots of names are being thrown around at the moment, and at the moment I haven't had any of them confirmed myself. So I just can't. I'm not going to really sort of speculate on it all because it's just too much of that at this time of year, and it's just. Social media is mental. Every time you just go and have a look at Twitter, and Arsenal are signing someone else at the moment. And so until I get some confirmed news from myself, then I'm just not gonna go there because I don't want to add to the speculation and the madness that is the final 48 hours of the transfer window. I still expect a couple of players to leave. It'll be interesting if Ainsley Maitland-Niles' future might end up changing because of the injuries. I don't know. That again, that's just me sort of. With a little bit of sort of speculating there, just because he's a midfielder, maybe he could come into question. I still think he'll probably go. I can't imagine you're suddenly going to keep Ainsley and bring him out from the fold just because Elneny's out for maybe a couple of months and Partey's out for a couple of weeks. Bellerin's an interesting one. He's still here. He's still training yesterday, but it is very much on the agenda that he's going to go. The whole Betis and Barcelona thing. Barcelona is absolutely an option for Bellerin at the moment, but Barca are looking at other positions in that right back. I think it's Thomas Meunier, isn't it? Borussia Dortmund is very much on their agenda as well. They tried to get Juan Foyth from Villarreal. He proved too expensive, but Bellerin's absolutely on their list. And discussions are going on behind the scenes to see if something like that is going to happen. There's other clubs interested in Bellerin. Betis is still there, clubs in Italy as well, and I bet Bellerin's just waiting to see what happens with Barcelona at the moment. So we'll wait and see in terms of outgoings, but in terms of incomings, just buckle up really, and try not to believe everything you read on social media. And if Arsenal do something, if I do get some news on what's happening, and I'm confident that news isn't just speculation and it's correct, then I'll put it out on Goal and social media, so keep your eyes peeled for all that over the next 48 hours. But apart from that, don't get too head up transfers. Remember, there is football tonight, a proper actual football match, which is far more important than transfers. So like I said, I'll be at the Emirates later on today, so keep your eyes peeled for all the usual stuff. I'll try and do my broadcast before the game this time. I know I didn't do it the last couple of games, but I'll try and do it tonight. All the live broadcasts to the warm-ups, and we'll have a bit of a Arsenal debate as we watch that, so keep your eyes peeled for that and all the usual post-match stuff as well. Have a very good day, everyone. Enjoy yourselves. I'll speak to you soon.